it seems like I like there's the left kind of cycles through their attack lines, and they're very coordinated. They're usually more coordinated, like in American politics. Like the liberals are usually more coordinated, and they all do this. They say the same thing, and they target the same catch line, and they call everybody the same thing for certain time periods, right? And it kind of goes the other way with woke and stuff like that, but it's not. I don't think it's quite as organized as the other way around. So for my whole life, it cycles through these same, I don't know, 5 or 6 things, but the cycle has intensified, it seems like, over the past 15 years. And there's kind of a question like, how do you deal with that, right? So the cycles include, they call you, they're going to name everybody, all their opponents are going to be sexist or something, like they're the patriarchy. And we saw that with the Me Too thing. Not that there wasn't good starts to that, but you see how it gets kind of out of hand, and then everybody's the patriarchy, right? And then that wears out, and then they just go to the next thing, which is usually some kind of ist or phobe thing, which we saw like in like recently. We saw that during the George Floyd and the the Summer of Love, and now currently they're bringing that back in like new forms, it seems like, but now it's like Islamophobe and whatnot, which again is, I think it's kind of unique, and I'm like, it's new, so people are like, oh man, I didn't know that was something. So now they're kind of worried, like that they're saying something they don't understand about, different, right? And then if that wears out, they go into the phobes. So you're a homophobe or you're a phobe of something, which they expanded greatly to all these different things. And then when that wears out, then they go into I think the current form, which is everybody's a fascist thing. So that's where we're currently at. So now the target, it seems to me, all of the left is focused on everyone's a fascist. So but then the question is, how do you react to that cycle, right? Because you could try to not say anything that is controversial, but that doesn't work because most people don't even know history. And even if you did, there's no way that you couldn't say something that someone could take out of context that would have been like some kind of weird line in the 30s or something about fascism or about anything about the South or any kind of racial thing. You're like, I had no idea. And then with the homophobe thing and now the Islamophobe, we don't even have any. Most people don't have any idea what is even a bad thing there. So then when you're told you did something bad, you're like, oh, I'm sorry, and then they get you in the sorry trap because you don't know what you're talking about, right? So that's the cycle that we. So it seems like you have to then. It seems like you have to then just explain explicitly on point what you're doing, and don't let people detract you from what you're saying, right? But you could take the strategy of like trolling, but the trolling comes in 2 forms. I think there's an honest troll, and then there's like the dishonest troll. And I think the honest troll, there's an argument for it. Dishonest troll, I think that's bad. The honest, like the example is Elon Musk. Like Elon Musk got in trouble because he made an awkward hand gesture, and they said that was a fascist salute of some kind, right? And so he was doing it on purpose and this and that. And it seems like Elon was, I believe him to say that no, he wasn't. He just made an awkward hand motion, which is quite common to put your hand out when you're trying to reach out to the crowd. So then if you believe that he's sincere, that he didn't mean to do it, then you would think the honest reaction is say, look, these guys are calling me this, that, and the other thing, and it's genuine to support him and go, that's messed up and whatever, right? Even though he's the richest guy ever, but still anyone's getting attacked, you're like, okay. But then you could imagine, what if, I don't think this is the case, but what if he did it on purpose and was trolling, but then after they all come after him, he said, see, I told you that I could do the smallest thing ever and you guys would still come after me because you guys are ridiculous. It's gotten crazy because that's the target. I think that's an honest troll. I wouldn't do that because maybe I don't have the skill. I'm this little, but, and I don't think Elon did that. But you can kind of say at least that would be a kind of I call that an honest troll, right? You're like, I just wanted to point out like the hypocrisy, so I did it on purpose, and then everybody knows what happened. And then there's the dishonest troll. And let's imagine Elon did the same thing. He did it intentionally, even though that's not what really happened. And then he got attacked. And then he said, "Oh, I don't know what you're talking about. I don't know what you're talking about." Even though he did it on purpose, which I don't think is actually true, but let's pretend that was true. That's what I would call the dishonest troll, and I don't think that's good, right? I think there's people doing that. That's not good, because that's the same victim mentality that we've been dealing with this whole time. It's like because now you're lying to your own audience, right? You're trying to get false victimization. That's like the Me Too movement, the gym girls that are attacking innocent people at the gym, and by doing that they're getting attention, but they're taking the attention away from actual victims of the real thing, and then now they've made the whole thing, like the whole movement's kind of a joke. It went too far, right? So they're doing the same. Like if you do that's what I feel like. I don't know. So I feel like there's certain people that are doing the victim mentality, which is a false. It's a false. Like troll. It's a lying troll. If it was a true troll and you came out and be honest, I was trolling, okay, maybe. But the false, I don't like so that's my thing. Okay. Anyway. So it's ironic that the rage bait doesn't work on fish. Isn't that crazy? Because you would think it's bait, which is clearly a fishing term, but rage bait doesn't typically work on fish, you know? You can drop a worm on a hook with a little sign that says, "You're a bass turd," because they're the turd of a bass, because bass is a kind of fish, you know? And that'd be really insulting to a fish, I would think. And every fish in the lake just swims by like, "Nah, I've seen your posts." This has got to be confusing for the professional rage baiters on X, you know? Guys who troll for a living, like Tucker Carlson style fishing for outrage. They must think they'd be phenomenal fishermen. You'd think, hey, look, I get all these people riled up with my rage bait on the X's. I should be able to catch fish like that because they're stupid. Fish are stupid. So then, after years of success online, farming quote tweets, harvesting meltdowns, hooking strangers like they're running an emotional Bass Pro shop, of course they assume real fishing, that would be easy. They're just going to go right out there and bait the fish just like they bait the X people. And then they go to an actual lake, they cast the line, they wait. And the fish ignore them completely, like rational consumers looking for actual information. It's weird. And then you can practically watch the rage baiter malfunction. They're like, what is good? Where's my engagement? Why isn't this troll calling me a fascist? Why is nobody screaming, for crying out loud? The lake of desperately desired fish attention is enough to send the average ex-rage baiter into a full meltdown. They came expecting to dunk on a bass. Instead, the bass dunked on their entire identity. Honestly, maybe we X-users should learn from the fish. Ignore the crap. Swim past the nonsense. And if you're gonna get hooked, at least make sure there's some substance on the line. Okay? A little substance on the line. A little bit of nutrition, at least, if you're gonna get hooked. Not just another piece of garbage blowing in the breeze or bobbing in the bog, pretending to be content.